All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday, December 6th, North Middlesex Council meeting. Roll call, all council is present. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. I have none before me, but if you have any, please forward it to the clerk. Our first order of business is privileged to be able to present to Ellen and Linda, who are responsible for the Remembrance Day banners that everybody sees in Elsa Craig. And we have a certificate of appreciation for that and the work that they do to make this happen is a lot. Ellen and her family are very responsible for the Remembrance Day service in Elsa Craig as well. And Linda's always at the Legion, either cooking or running events for the Legion as well. And so this time, if I get you to come up and accept this certificate, and I'd ask council to just come, maybe you can stand in behind here. Camera time to hear you.
Like I said, come on in.
Here, right behind Brian's head.
No, there's a door from the group.
2 steps to your right. Other right.
The other right. Her right, not your right. Thanks, John.
Very good.
We have something for you.
A bill? Do we have to stand for this?
And the reason I asked you to come up because that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Ellen, Linda. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Just before we go on, I want everyone to know that the treasurer is online. She's joining us online. We do have a bit of a flu bug going through the municipality, through the office, so that we do have a couple of people not here tonight, but Estelle is joining us. So if there's any questions for the treasurer, she's available, all right? At this time, we need my glasses is what I need. We need minutes of the previous meeting. Any errors or omissions, business arising from that? Seeing none, motion to accept the last minutes. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Keogh, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. At this time, quarter revision, and we have it for 5:45 for Hutchison Eagleson Drain A, and I think Josh is joining us, I believe, as well. And this is for Councillor Daigle, the deputy mayor, and myself.
Hi, everybody.
Can you hear us, Josh?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Go ahead.
Yeah, so through the chair, I'm Josh Warner, as was mentioned, from Ardobin Engineering, and I prepared the engineer's report for the Hutchinson Eagleson Drain A. I'll give a brief overview of the assessments contained in the report. The report has been assessed as per the Drainage Act, with roads and utilities being assessed any additional cost as per section 26. Culverts have been assessed based on a standard culvert length. The standard culvert length and future maintenance of the channel has been assessed with 50% of the cost applied as a benefit assessment to the abutting property, and the remainder as an outlet assessment to upstream lands and roads based on equivalent hectares. The cost of additional length of culvert has been assessed to the requesting property, and the cost of removing a secondary access has been assessed to the property the access is located on. To date, I have not received any verbal or written appeals, but I am available for any questions or comments from landowners that are present or members of the court.
All right, thank you. At this time, any questions from the court? No questions? Anything you'd like to add? Joanne?
No, I haven't had anything brought forward to me as well.
Okay, thank you. We have a recommendation in front of us. The Court of Revision confirmed the assessment schedule as detailed in our Dobbin Engineering Incorporated report dated October 3rd, 2023 for the Hutchison-Eagleson Drain A, and that a motion be made to accept the assessment. Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
At this time, we need to adjourn the Court of Revision and proceed to public meeting, including Committee of Adjustment. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Irwin, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our first order of business is a notice of public meeting to consider application MV 5/2023. Oh, we're not quite at 6 o'clock yet? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, that is after. Can we hear from our first delegation? Okay, a motion to adjourn public meeting. Councillor Nerda, Councillor Keel, all in favor? Carried. And we would invite, we'll just go off script here a little bit. And Sheila Morrison, if you come up and do your presentation, and that's for the Elsa Craig Arts Center. And I think, Natalie, you have the slide. Okay, perfect.
Oh, do you need me? Speak into it? Oh, Zoom, okay. We just wanted to take the opportunity to give you a little brief introduction or reintroduction to the Elsa Craig Arts Center. We've been the beneficiaries of the support of the municipality, and we feel it behooves us to, on a regular basis, kind of keep you up to date with what's happening. The Elsa Craig Arts Center, we call it a little bit of magic in Elsa Craig. Bing. We were founded in 2017 as a legacy project from the Elsa Craig Quilt and Fiber Arts Festival. Some of you may remember this event. It was a nationally recognized fiber arts festival. We brought people from all over the country, and we brought visitors from all over the world to come and see the festival. We ran the festival for 13 years. And after, just before COVID, we decided we needed to do something that was going to bring benefits to our village for 52 weeks of the year, not just the 1 week. And we were looking to have a legacy to acknowledge what the festival had brought to us. So we set up the Elsa Craig Arts Center. We did so in conjunction with the Old Town Hall. And as you know, we're at the side of the Old Town Hall, 160D Main Street. And it was important. We relied on their support from day one. They allowed us to do a staggered 3-year financial launch so that we could get up and running, and we met all of our commitments and haven't looked back since. The municipality supported us from the very beginning, and so we thank you, and we wanted to continue to keep you aware of what we're doing. The mission of the Elsa Craig Arts Center might be a little bit surprising. It's really not about art. The mission is to promote community engagement and intergenerational learning. Art is simply the strategy that we use to facilitate this goal. From the outset, our business plan demanded that we use multiple revenue streams so that we wouldn't be dependent upon any single one source of income. And so today we're operating on a net revenue budget of around $30,000. That's comprised, or that revenue is derived from classes, from memberships, from grants, from community events, and from product sales. So I'll go through each of them very quickly. Classes are our largest contribution. They deliver about $15,000. And in 2023, we ran about 39 individual class events. These events are important. We bring participants from all over Ontario and even into the United States. They come to our classes, and the ratings on the classes has been universally excellent. Most classes are actually held in the Elsa Craig Arts Centre, but where it's deemed appropriate, we partner with the Old Town Hall, the church at Nairn, or even local farms to host activities. This event was at a local farm. The classes have created really tremendous awareness of Elsa Craig. Lots of people say, what is Elsa Craig? Where is Elsa Craig? And they've really actually created the center's created a lot of awareness for Elsa Craig, and it's certainly supported tourism, as many of our events are weekend events. People stay in the region, they eat in the region, they stock up on gas in the region, so it's been significant that way. In 20, what did I write there? Okay, in 2024, we're achieving one of our major goals, which is continuing to collaborate with the Optimists of East Williams, and we're launching a youth-oriented program. It's called YACAC, which is Youth Plus Elsa Craig Arts Centre, and it's going to be running once a month, and it's targeting youth 10 to 15. And the registration for that program literally filled up in about 2 days, and that's been a consistent experience we have. There's a little bit of a hole in programming that are non-sports related. So we're actually really excited to present this to the community. That event is going to be free to the kids, and the kids are going to be able to participate just by simply bringing a donation to the local food bank. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. If you want to keep going. The classes are not priced for profit. They are priced to cover their costs, but we really promote the classes on the basis of an accessibility basis. So we keep the class pricing, very competitive and as accessible as possible. We use classes often to set up a foundation of a skill set for people, and then we look to them to generate their own sort of momentum and come into groups. So there's a lot of groups that are meeting on a regular basis at the Elsa Craig Arts Centre. Some of the long-standing groups include creative writing groups, watercolor painting groups, there's social sewing circles, there's book clubs, and now the ACAC is going to be meeting there on a regular basis too. So we're even setting up in the new year a men's program on stretch and flex in conjunction with Kathy Willemsey and the Info Center here, the Locality Wellness Center here. So just looking for any way that we can to make sure that we're inclusive and that we're promoting community engagement. Yeah, thanks. Memberships, we have about 91 active members. That number flips between 105 and 91. Membership costing, again, is designed to be accessible. $35 per annum per season per senior, and that allows members to have a discount on their classes, and it also makes the center completely accessible to them if they need to book it for their own groups or whatever. Interestingly enough, probably 35% or 40% of our members come from outside the North Middlesex area. A lot of them come from London. They say there's nothing like what we offer in the London market. They come from Kitchener, they come from Strathroy, Sarnia. They come from a large area, and they continue to, re-enlist year after year after year. So we've had some really great retention in our membership. You can keep. We are an operating committee is run by volunteers. So many groups are in North Middlesex. Dan Slychuk, he's our chair. You could read all the names here, but it's a pretty substantial operating committee, and it's vibrant, and we're really excited to see that it's continuing to get stronger and stronger each year. Of course, we do a lot in terms of stewardship and volunteer recognition. And I think we have about 22 active volunteers that are participating and giving of their time every month at the Arts Center. So most of our teachers, many of our teachers are volunteer, but many of them are also local artists who are paid, and it helps them to help fund their art practice and their living. Grants are important to us. The municipal grant is huge. In the past, you have allowed us to pay for our rent at the old town hall. We pay all the utilities and sundry. We've invested heavily in the facility at the old town hall. This year, we put in a whole new commercial grade floor and have just redone the bathroom and whatnot there. So we're continuing to invest in that facility, and a lot of it's, you know, just lifting a paintbrush and working away on it ourselves, but it's the facility's great, and we're continuing to maintain it. We've had meetings with Yoth to ensure we continue to collaborate with one another, and as they look at moving forward with their accessible washrooms, we've now, I think, developed a good set of understanding that we'll work on that project together so that both facilities can do it in a sensible and reliable way, and share that facility basis together. Donations continue to grow. We get about $2,000 worth of donations a year. This year, it's actually going to be double as we look at the Optimist of East Williams and the sponsorship that they're bringing. In turn, we run events in the community. As you can see, we do a lot. We're doing a lot to try and promote youth involvement. We just had another class last week where we had about 15 kids come, and it was for $5. I mean, we don't even cover the cost. So we run pumpkin carving events, and we participate in a number of committees, whether it's the Elsa Craig Village Association or any of the other groups, the extravaganza that comes to us, etc. We try to participate fully in that event to be part of the community. We sell product sales, and that again delivers a couple $1,000s a year. But more importantly, we showcase local artists, and they have a display. They have opening days. They're able to merchandise their work. They're able to showcase their work in a local friendly event. And so that draws a lot of people and friends and family to the center. So I think anything we can do to support local artisans and to build a cultural base is certainly a help. Within the community, we are presently working on it. We've been the driving force and are working on helping to set up the North Middlesex Arts Council. That's something a lot of you probably aren't aware of. It's a new group that's been formed with a very clear mission, which is to expand the range of services that are offered to North Middlesex residents, and to do so through enhanced communication and collaboration. In other words, we saw a certain amount of redundancy and duplication in the service bases that were offered, particularly amongst groups like ours with Parkhill Carnegie and Yoth and whatnot. So we said, rather than, you know, duplicating each other's offerings, why don't we work together and see if we can expand that base of services? So to this end, we have a number of stakeholders in the arts community that are represented on that council. We're currently meeting monthly. It's probably excessive. We probably don't need to do that. We have some interesting projects coming forward that will work on some existing infrastructure that's in place and maybe mobilize it, activate it a little bit more. The Elsa Craig Arts Center also is a contributing member to the Elsa Craig Village Association, the Gala Days, the Elsa Craig 150th Anniversary Group, and Extravaganza. So we're out there and we're trying to work constructively with our community. So we look forward to continuing to serve North Middlesex in 2024 and beyond. And yeah, thank you very much for your support. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to field them.
Thanks, Sheila. It's just before I turn it over, I'm glad to see that committee that you have formed to work collaboration to work together. I like to see that. Comments, questions from council? Councilor Irwin.
Thank you, Worship, through you. And
thank you both, Sheila and Jan. I've got a bit of a raspy throat today, but I'm not masked like some people. Okay. I heard that. I'm curious, maybe because of my cold, how did you recover from COVID? How was COVID? How did it impact your service?
Actually, COVID was a boom for us. I hate to say it. Because of our collaboration with the Old Town Hall, we were able to continue programming during COVID when most organizations were shut down. In fact, when the Old Town Hall was shut down, we were able to offer safe programming and distancing. So we continued to offer classes and they sold out immediately. Our membership actually expanded during COVID. And so our recovery, actually, it's probably a little bit of a more challenging business environment for us now than it was during COVID. Since COVID, there's been so much more competition for classes. And as I say, our classes deliver, half of our revenue. We're going to be doing $15,000 in classes this year, which is up from 10,000 last year. Now there's a lot of people offering classes. So we don't sell out all of our classes now like we did before. We'd sell them out within 24 hours.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a follow-up question. I didn't see any absolute numbers here. So in 2023, how many individuals participated in the variety of offers? Do you have that kind of data?
Actually, we don't have that data easily accessible. We use a software system that we have just expanded our database access to. It's called Wild Apricot, and it's an e-commerce site. So the way Wild Apricot works is you can have so many contacts, up to 500, and then you jumped into a whole other sphere and a whole other expense. So we actually went for a number of years archiving a lot of our contacts. So normally in a marketing function, you're trying to expand your database, but because there was such a huge cost to do that, we resisted that until this year. So as a result, I think it's very safe to say our participation numbers, whether it's through gallery visits, monthly groups, classes, we'd be well over 2,300 people per annum that are coming into the center. But what that exact number is, I'm not sure. We have steps in place now to record our data as much as we can, a little more effectively. But yeah, that would be a very comfortable number for us to say.
Thank you. Councillor Canellis.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Thank you for your presentation, Sheila. I really quite enjoyed it. It was very thorough. The question I have is you touched on collaboration. Can you give me an example of what you're doing to collaborate with the other organizations? One of the things that came to my mind as I read through this is some of the services you're offering seem to duplicate what the Parkville Carnegie Library is doing. But give me share with me, if you can, how you are collaborating.
So Parkville is part of the North Middlesex Arts Council. We're working with them in that regard. So right off the bat, just the extent of communication and sharing information on available resources is there. We have a very, very, very active class program. And what we were finding is that some of our teachers were being picked up by Park Hill, and we were replicating the services and classes that were offered. So now I think we're distributing that a little bit better, or arranging things a little bit better around those key competencies. We're having conversations about saying, what is your core asset that you have that's a unique proposition that we don't have? Like, for example, Park Hill has a piano. We don't have a piano. They have concerts and music. We don't do that. The Old Town Hall has theatrical spaces that we don't have. We're a very tiny, tiny little facility, if you remember the old VON spot. So, today we just came out of our meeting and we're talking about launching a drama program, and we'll do that in conjunction with the Old Town Hall. We'll do that with the awareness of Park Hill. There is some regionality between Park Hill and Elsa Craig. There's no question. Our sponsorship for our YACAC is coming from the Optimists of East Williams. They have a very specific territorial, and that encompasses Elsa Craig. Now, Park Hill can pick that up, but their Optimist group wants to service their area as well. So, within the range of what we can do, we're certainly to expand the capabilities overall and make sure that we can complement rather than compete. Yeah.
Any other questions? There, it is showing by how quickly your youth programs especially fill up, that there is a need at both locations to have these youth programs. I can see that.
There certainly is. I mean, we talk to Park Hill Carnegie and we talk at the North Middlesex Arts Center about, or the North Middlesex Arts Council, about how someday down the road we can dream of having a youth facility, like a youth center, if you will. There's a lot of kids that are hidden in the community that may not play some of the competitive sports. Their parents may not have the resources to pay those sports. We want to make sure that those kids have access to services that they need to reflect their needs or their wants. We not all kids are jocks, so we want to make sure that they have a chance to learn how to express themselves in a creative and positive way, and not some of the other alternatives.
Well, thank you. If there's no other questions from council comments, thank you very much for coming and presenting. Thanks, Sheila. Thanks, Janice.
We just thank you for your support. Thanks.
Have a good evening. At this time, I need a motion to go back into Committee of Adjustment to start our planning. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, Councilor Nerd, all in favor? Carried. Okay, now we'll try this again. Our first item is the public notice application MV 520. Stephanie, if you want to start.
Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce council to Abby Heddle Jacobs. Natalie's just bringing her in right now online with us. There we go. So she'll be providing planning services to North Middlesex starting Monday, December the 18th. And I just also wanted to take an opportunity to say that it has been a pleasure to have the opportunity to provide planning services to North Middlesex for the past 6 years. And it has been a time truly of residential growth and development. And that is, of course, all made possible by staff and members of council. So I've truly enjoyed my time here. Thank you. And you're certainly in great hands with Abby moving forward.
Thank you. Welcome, Abby.
Thank you. Looking forward to the opportunity.
Great. All right. Go ahead.
Thank you. Natalie already has my share screen. Perfect. All right, the purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the North Middlesex zoning bylaw in order to vary from the minimum landscaping / buffering provisions within the residential density to exception holding zone. More specifically, the applicant is proposing to include a combination of 1.8 meter tall wood fencing along all of the property lines. I'm just going to switch maps for you. So along all the property lines, with the exception of 2 areas, which will be chain link fence to be located between the units 4 and 5, which will abut a pedestrian walkway, and between units 16 and 17, which will abut an agricultural field. Staff have reviewed the application against the 4 tests of a minor variance and are of the opinion that is considered to be minor in nature, that it is an appropriate use of the land, and it does meet the intent of the zoning bylaw and official plan, which of course speaks to the need for buffering between medium density and lower density. So the difference here is a hedge versus a fence, a wooden fence predominantly, which would still, in staff's opinion, provide the required buffering. So it is recommended that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. This time we have the opportunity for an applicant's remarks. We have none. No applicant in front of us, I don't believe. Is that right? It appears so. No written, so opportunity for public comments? Seeing none. Committee questions? It's on the fencing around the townhouse complex. No questions. We have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Keogh, seconded by Councillor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next one is notice of public meeting to consider application B2 2023 located at 35325 McGuire Road. And I think we have an applicant coming online. Oh, sorry, you're in person. Are you Ann? Okay. It's Ann Conlon that's doing this. Okay, nice to see you. Sorry about that. I was told you were coming online, so welcome. Stephanie, go ahead.
Thank you. The purpose and effect of the application for consent is to sever a surplus farm residence with a lot frontage of approximately 74 meters along McGuire Road in an area of approximately 0.989 hectares or 2.19 acres from a farm parcel with a total area of approximately 102 acres. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, and North Middlesex official plan permit surplus farm dwelling severances subject to criteria. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal meets the policy criteria and recommend that the application be approved subject to conditions which council will have before them. Thank you.
This time, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Not specifically.
Not at this time? All right, thank you. So we have no written submissions. Public comments, there's no one present. I don't think Brian has anything he wants to add to it. Council. Questions? Question of the committee? Councillor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, I have a couple of questions, and just for clarification, I've been being somewhat familiar with the property. There's a drive shed and other outbuildings. Are they going to be included with the separate parcel, which includes the house, or is it going to retain with the agricultural area and the barn, livestock barn?
Through the mayor to the councillor, there is one drive shed remaining with the with the residential parcel of land. The barn and silos are proposed to remain with the retained farmland, subject to a condition for change of use to prevent any livestock from occurring due to incompatibilities with MDS as a result of the lot creation.
Well, that answers the second part of my question, because a couple of years ago, when there was a severance across the road, this particular owner was opposed to that severance based on the fact that the feedlot may expand. Am I to understand that this feedlot will not be discontinued?
Yes, we accept that.
And the other question I have for you is, I got a call from the owner of the property across the road, because when he severed his parcel off, silos had to come down. And I understand that I don't see that as a condition here where these silos need to come down. Can you explain the rationale for that?
So through the mayor to the councillor, I would say each individual severance is unique, and there is direction from the official plan for staff to evaluate accessory buildings and structures. And the comments or the conditions provided are derived from staff comments through the circulation process. So it's challenging to compare one application necessarily to the other without perhaps having the details of the structures themselves. But in this particular application, in consultation with the chief building official, it was determined that the silos being fully contained on the agricultural parcel, they're an agricultural structure. We know that it will not be used for livestock purposes. So it was determined that there wasn't a condition needed to require the silos in this particular case.
Well, I guess that raises the question, when you say it will not be utilized for livestock, then I don't understand the purpose of retaining the silos, because they can't be used anyway. So why would they not be required to be removed?
So through the mayor to the councillor, as mentioned, it was not recommended by staff for it to be removed. It could be used for other storage purposes. However, council does have the option, of course, to amend, modify, add, delete conditions if they so wish.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments, questions from council? Deputy Mayor Hodges.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And To you too. I did have some questions earlier on it, and thank you, Stephanie, for clearing up. I was asking about the ownership and everything else, and I do know this family well, and through getting back to answer my question, but still the family is the ownership of this farm. But that's good to see. I did have one, and I did get the same question like how hard here did about, and I'm always been a one, I believe in consistency and everything, and I wasn't a part of the decision that was made years ago on neighboring farm, but one of the ones of the conditions I would say, and it's just plain simple and consistent. If they were taking, I'd like to see the silos taken down in this place too, and everybody's kosher. So that's one of the things I would like to add in the conditions of this severance. Other than that,
Okay,
thank you.
Councillor Irwin.
Before we rush to decision, can we ask to you, your worship, the applicants, what they plan to do with the silos?
Storage, and just being environmentally responsible as well. I don't see the point of to tearing down something that's functional and just having it to currently.
Okay. Other comments, questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. What's Councillor Irwin? Do you have a follow-up?
Can you clarify the recommendation? Are we going with the existing one or with the,
Well, we have a recommendation right now that's written in front of us from the planner's recommendation. And it's up what's council's wish. Deputy Mayor Hodgins. To add that the silos be removed. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Knellison. Discussion on that? Go ahead.
Just in terms of consistency, is this a regular thing, or this is something that happened many years ago where a silo was taken down? Do most current applications have to be meeting that criteria?
Stephanie, I would say, just before Stephanie speaks on it, I would say that I have seen in the past where silos come down. I only remember once where silos stayed up, and it was on a special request. There was no other outbuildings with it, silos. And that's the only time I remember that we did make an exception. But Stephanie, can you speak to that a little better?
So through the mayor, certainly any proposal that includes a silo with the residential parcel of land, has been a recommendation that it be removed, as there isn't a residential purpose for an agricultural building. In regards to any structures, whether it be old barns or silos, there is room, I guess, for interpretation, so long as they're compatible, meet zoning, etc., to be agricultural structures. So I would say also the quality of the buildings. So if the silos were in really structurally unsound state, that would also be an opportunity to take something down. Similar with barns. So there's a lot of components that go into evaluating accessory buildings. So it is challenging to do a blanket yes or no for all structures. They are kind of evaluated on an independent basis on multiple factors.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Daigle.
Thank you, Mayor. May I just ask a question? Are you here representing the retained land?
Yeah.
All of it? What kind of storage are you going to be using? The silos?
Equipment. Yeah. Yeah. It's all connected to a very large barn. There's 3 components.
I don't think we're particular. I don't think particularly it's a barrier to us either way.
So it's not being used for grain storage like what a silo was meant for? Or?
Yeah.
It's just sound.
Okay.
Sounds try not to be wasteful, but whatever. I don't.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of us, and that is to approve with the addition of silos removed. Correct? In favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next application is for public meeting to consider application B14 2023 located at 132 Old Mill Road. And I don't think we have our applicant is not. Okay. Stephanie, go ahead.
I'm gonna make our map. All right. So the purpose in effect of this application is to create one new residential infill lot along Old Mill Street from a property known municipally as 132 Old Mill Street within the urban settlement area of Elsa Craig. A minor variance will also be required in order to address lot area deficiencies of 418 meters for both the severed and retained parcels, whereas 460 meters is the minimum required in the zone category. Residential development is generally encouraged within settlement area boundaries on full municipal services. Staff are satisfied that the application meets the policies and will result in an additional building lot in Elsa Craig. It is noted, unique to this development, that as a result of the severance, the accessory building, which is currently accessory to the dwelling on the retained parcel, would not have a main use associated with it, so would not be in compliance with zoning. It also would be located in what would be the front yard of the severed parcel, fairly close to the road, not consistent with the zoning standards. So it is recommended by both planning and the building departments that as a condition, the accessory building be removed within the 2-year time period prior to obtaining or finalizing the severance. Other than that, there are pretty standard conditions associated with this application for infill residential development within Elsa Craig or Park Hill. So it is recommended that the application be granted subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Our applicant is not present. We have no written submission, so there's no public here. So committee, once again, questions, comments? Councilor Irwin?
Your Worship, I understand the outbuilding is the original blacksmith shop for the village of Elsa Craig. And at this time, in future, it's pretty easy to move if there was an historic use for it in future. So I'm going to make a counter recommendation with.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Other questions? Councilor Knellison?
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, I just need a clarification, a better understanding of condition number 11. You make reference here to all the terms and whatnot that the owner has entered into development agreement. And then later on, there's a reference to the developer. So is the owner the developer, or is the person who buys this property from the owner the developer?
So through the mayor, it could be either or. In this case, I happen to understand that the applicant is the owner and doesn't have any immediate plans to develop the severed lot at this point in time.
Correct. So my question then for you is that if and when another person or individual or corporation purchases this lot, they then assume the responsibility for all the terms of item number 11?
Through the mayor to the councillor, the municipality wouldn't get into that level of detail. That would be a negotiation between the property owners and the future purchaser of the lands. Staff just need to receive confirmation that all the conditions have been fulfilled within the time period in order to finalize the severance application.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments, questions? No other comments, questions on it? Councilor Irwin?
Your Worship, I move the recommendation with the exception that the outbuilding on the severed land remains at this time. In future, if development occurs, then it has to either be torn down or moved. I'm sure we can change the wording on that.
Sorry, just to get clarification. Sorry.
I'd like some clarification on what he said again.
So the outbuilding will remain on the severed property at this time, not having to be removed within the 2 years. If the property then is sold to be developed or the owner builds on it, then it has to be removed.
We have a seconder. Did I hear Councilor Nerda? Councilor Nerda seconded. Any more comments on that? Stephanie, go ahead.
So the mayor, if I could make a suggestion perhaps, so there's a 2-year time period on fulfilling all the conditions in order to finalize the severance. So in order for that condition to remain past the 2-year time period, perhaps there's an opportunity to include that language within condition number 11 being the development agreement, which could then be registered on the title of the property. Alternatively, there could be a condition added that speaks to the need for a variance as a subsequent application to speak to the permission that would allow for a certain period of time the building to remain.
Councilor Irwin, what's your motion?
Do we need to do a variance at this time, or can we just include it at this time?
Can we just include it at this time into the motion? Councilor Cornelison.
Actually, Mayor Rappa, I did sort of agree with what the planner was saying, that it become part of item number 11, at which time when the property is sold and someone else takes ownership of that particular property, that the shed be moved at that time. Can that be incorporated there?
Through the mayor, it could be, yeah, if council had that decision. My concern with the proposal to allow it and be removed for a future owner is that these conditions are tied to the severance, so it would be challenging to enforce that after these conditions have all been fulfilled and it changed hands. It would be challenging for the municipality to enforce that because once the conditions are all done, the severance is done. So there's no more enforcement piece necessarily to accommodate that.
Councilor Irwin.
Given the size of the property, to the planner, if someone was to build on this property, would they not have to remove that building regardless?
Through the mayor to the councillor, the applicant has provided a concept plan that accommodates a building envelope. It's challenging for me to answer whether or not they would have the ability to build on that property. We'd have to look at a plan at the time to evaluate zoning and setbacks, coverage, etc.
So, Councilor Daigle.
We've in the past have dealt with properties. What we're actually setting up here is a lot that's just gonna have a storage building, which is against everything in our bylaws on residential land. We've told people they can't, if they own 2 lots together and they're in separate names, they can't put up a non-residential building in the other lot. And what we're doing here is allowing.
It's existing.
It's existing, but does that? Well, that's like saying, okay, so then they put their all in one name and then get it separate. To give them a separate lot with a separate building. It just, to me, does not follow the rule of planning. To have in a residential area, a secondary building, storage building or a garage that does not have a house connected to residential use.
Councilor Irwin.
I would think, Your Worship, through you, to address Councilor Daigle's comments, given the historic nature of this building, I think we could make an exception at this time with the understanding that when or if construction occurs, it'll be moved. And it will be moved. I suspect it will be moved.
Well, that's the motion you made. That is the motion that we have on the table and it's been seconded. Any more discussion on that motion? Seeing none, in favor of that motion. Opposed? One opposed, it's carried. Okay. Thank you. We have one more item. And that is public meeting to consider application 15/2023 located at 34264 Brinsley Road. And do we have Stuart joining us here online? Dan Smith or Stuart Finlay? We'll get to you yet, Brian.
Good evening.
Good evening, Stuart. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Okay, Stephanie, go ahead.
Thank you. The purpose and effect of the consent application is to sever a parcel of land consisting of approximately 86 acres from a parcel of land with an area of approximately 179.8 acres of land, known municipally as 34642 Brinsley Road. The lands are designated aggregate within the North Middlesex official plan and contain an existing aggregate. They are also used agriculturally and as a dwelling or a home for someone. Staff are of the opinion that the application is generally consistent with the policy requirements and recommend that it be granted subject to the conditions before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Stuart, is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
No, Your Worship, not at this point in time. I have reviewed Stephanie's planning report and I agree with her recommendation and in that it's consistent with the PPS, the county official plan and the North Middlesex official plan. So I would just simply ask that the application be approved as applied for, subject to the conditions in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Any questions from committee? Councilor Knellison?
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, the only question I have in looking at the map, the parcel, the shape of the parcel is kind of abstract. So my question is, what is this being created? Like the property currently run all the way across the river to that other yellow line there, or is this the shape of the property as it now sits?
So through the mayor, this actually was formerly 4 parcels of land. So to the west side of the Little AuSable River, you see the highlighted parcels which have merged. And the Little AuSable River is actually, we received legal opinion, legally separates from the other side of the river, which also was formerly 2 parcels that have merged together. So this is the property in itself on the west side of the river is how it stands today.
My understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you take that property from Brinsley Road and go east to the other properties there that are highlighted in yellow and pink, that's all one parcel, is it not?
No.
Well, how would you access it? It's landlocked. I don't know how you get to it.
There's actually, let me see if I can zoom in.
Is there a bridge?
There's yeah.
Footbridge.
If you can see, on this part of the Clandeboye Drive actually goes right here. Can you see that? Sorry.
Where? Yeah, but okay, but oh, okay, all right, okay.
So there is existing legal access
Okay.
through this Clandeboye Drive.
Thank correct. Thank you.
Okay, you're good? Any other questions on this application? No other questions? We have a recommendation in front of us that this application be granted, and also further that the application for consent of B-15/2023 be subject to the following conditions listed on the evaluation. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. At this time, we need to adjourn our public meeting, including Committee of Adjustment, and convene to regular meeting. Councillor Irwin, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And our next item is Brian Horner from Asalvo Bayfield Conservation Authority came to give us good news. We have a 20% decrease in our funding. I'm sorry, come ahead, Brian. Always good to hear from you, Brian. Yep. Just, yeah, before you start, Brian, go ahead and sit down. No, but Stephanie, I want to thank you. You said it's 6 years. Wow. Time goes by quick. And you're going to Owen Sound to be senior. Is that right? Sudbury. Geez, even farther away. For what? Your position? Tell us. No, I know, but I mean, I want you to say.
It's a it's a senior planner position opportunity.
Well, good for you, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
We're sorry to see you go, but thank you very much. Thanks, Stephanie. Yeah. Are you coming back for baseball? Is that what I heard you're coming back for baseball? Take care. Thanks, Stephanie. All right, Brian, go ahead.
That's interesting coming all the way back from Sudbury to play baseball. That's very dedicated.
Yeah. It's not every game though. She's not going to make every game.
First of all, thanks for letting me come tonight. I guess Ashley and Mr. Cornelius, our representative, for getting us on the agenda tonight. So again, thanks. Just a couple things before we get into. I assume everybody's got the 6 or 7 pages in front of you, the handout today.
And Natalie, do you have that as well? Yeah. For a PowerPoint? Okay.
So just, some of you have heard this before. Just for our draft budget, what we do is what you have in front of you is we go through our 5-year forecast, and we start in July that we present to our board, and you've seen the projects that we do that we show. Then we are from staff. They kind of look back at our conservation strategy to make sure the projects tie in. I'm happy to say that the numbers that we presented our board in the beginning of October for our annual budget were significantly less than our 5-year forecast numbers were. But that being said, we'll say the projects, we didn't add any new projects from our 5-year forecast. We might have deferred some of them, but the numbers that for the levy part of it are significantly less. And when we first presented to our board in October, it was a number of around 3.6, 3.7% increase. When the board said that, then they suggested that we try to reduce that again. So they asked to get less than 3%. So that's what you see in front of you at 2.7%. And I say, so what's in front of you? So when we do that, and again, some of you have heard this before, the board approved, send it out for review. That's what's here now. They haven't approved anything. We have to have the 30 days for the municipalities to review it. And at the earliest they'd be able to approve or vote on it would be at our December meeting, which is next week. I'll get into each of their pages. I mean, some of the highlights I'll get to that. And again, some of you have heard this before. Our operating levy, I like to call them as local dollars. Our percentage of what we're asking for in levies around in total. You'll see there's a graph. It's probably 27%. So what I say is local dollars. We were able to leverage another, $2.50 to $3 from other agencies because of those local dollars that we get. And the other part that's in here, I will say that we've got as far as a wage increase, proposed wage increase of 2%. And how we came up with that 2%, each year I go to I poll our member municipalities to see what they're thinking as far as increases. And the majority of our member municipalities are tied to the CPI, the inflation factor. So they range anywhere from, and depending on which month they're looking at, anywhere from 2 to 5.5% for some. So that's where we came in with the 2%, which we have in front of you, which was included. So if I may, you've got the first page. So just in summary, so you'll see the bottom right hand amount in here, and that is the 2.7. You've heard before. Why is, you look up at North Middlesex percentage is different than the 2.7, and that's based on the apportionment, the numbers that we get from the province. And I've sat here before, and for others, we don't come up with those numbers. The province tells us those numbers. So that's where our, the past couple of years, North Middlesex, I think last year, and I will say that maybe on the other side of that, where our increase might have been, whether it was 2.7 last year, we came to North Middlesex, their percentage was actually higher than that 2.7, where this year you're significantly less at 1.96, the proposed increase. The next page that you have in front of you is,
Brian, can I just interrupt you for a second? How did the ministry come up? What is their formula to come up with that?
Yep.
We just have a lot of new council here.
Yep, it's good. And I got my little, I will say my little cheat sheet here. I don't know the exact amounts they put in there, but they do it, they call it the modified current value assessment. And they have used the different factors. So for residences, whatever the value is for residents, they give it a factor of 1. Farmlands, they give it 25% of that value gets included in there. Commercial or multi-residential, they got, let's say 2.1. Managed forest is a 0.25%. So they factor all those amounts in there, and they come up with the total modified or the value assessment for North Middlesex and all our member municipalities. And then what they do is they take, what area, like North Middlesex, we have two of our member municipalities, North Middlesex and Blue Water, are 100% in our watershed. So their total value that's determined by the province is included in this number. And actually you'll see it on, I think it's almost like the 4th or 5th pages where they get the total values of those assessments. And then where the other ones, if they're only, a portion of their geographic area is in our area, they take their total value of the assessment, but then they just take a percentage of that gets in there, and the total number gets in there, and North Middlesex number is compared to that. To answer your question, I probably went longer than your question because I'm just saying they take the residents, farmland, and the other residential factors that are included in that number.
Yeah, thank you. I know we have some new council in. I want to make sure.
Absolutely. I should say, I'm fine. You stop me at any time. If you have a question, I know it has to come through you. The next page I have here, you got the special benefiting. And these are for our, our flood control structures and our erosion control structures. I'm going to say that in the past, so that's what we're proposing. The $33,000 would be the portion that would be for North Middlesex come for 2024. I'm going to say that in the past, that number's been, or the breakdown per se of the share has been questioned, how that's determined. Okay, and these are flood control structures and the erosion control structures are the only items that we actually do the special benefiting. And it was for the the big one we'll say for Park Hill Dam. That was originally determined. I got the notes here. Originally determined by the OMB when it was first back in the 60s. They came up with the percentages, and roughly I'll say that what it is, 25% of the total cost is allocated to all our member municipalities, and the other 75% is allocated between 3 of our member municipalities, being North Middlesex, South Huron, and Lambton Shores. Now that's the 75%. How that 75% is factored in, again, back in the 60s, it was determined by OMB. And again, it was revisited in the 1990s or mid 90s, and it changed slightly. And again, it must have been, or before my time, it must have been questioned again. It was in 2005, the authority, probably, I'm guessing it's probably through our member municipalities asked that we went out to a third-party consultant and they did a study, and it changed still around, it went from of the 75% North Middlesex share was originally before the study was 49.125%. It was recommended that it decreased to 48.2%. And that at that time in 2005, that resulted in a decrease in the special benefiting to North Middlesex of $148. So I guess that's the summary, a little bit more history with the special benefiting, but I think it's important for you, even, as you said, for new counselors, so they understand that. So that's why we had that in there, and I thought I'd explain a little more. The next 2 pages are the actual consolidated budget themselves as well. I saw something with my.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Daigle, sorry.
Thank you. Before we leave that page on the dam and the
Yep.
erosion control, you show the total cost and then the municipal share,
Yep.
and then you show what you want to send to reserves and the municipal share of that. Right. Why is the percentage different?
Or of which one?
Like all of them. If you take the 27,000 for the municipal share of the Park Hill Dam.
Yep.
Odd with the 68, that's just under 40%, 39.9. But if you go to the reserves, we're paying 48.2 of the reserves.
Yeah, the total cost, you gotta remember the total cost number in there is, and I apologize, I don't have that in front of me. We also have the total, it's the total cost of the project, but then we have the first 25% is paid by the total member municipalities. And then it's just a 75%. The remaining 75% is just split between the 3.
Right, but you're projecting to put this money in reserves, 6,000. Should we not still be paying just 39.98% equal to?
And I apologize. So you're saying that 2892 isn't that percentage of 6,000?
No, my calculator comes up 48%.
Which is, and that's what I'm trying to get to. This is the recommended share of that 75% breakdown. North Middlesex share is 48.2.
It shouldn't then, okay, because that means the other number we're paying less than our share
of this municipal share.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get at. That 68, the 68,000 number that's sitting there, you have to take off 25%. Like
but that
that's it. But that's 6,000. The 6,000 is in the 68,000. 68,000 is the total cost of the entire project, which includes the 6. So that's 68,000. You take off the top 25%. And I mean, I'll try to go into as much as we want, but I could certainly follow up with the counselor to give them the.
So the 68 you say is including the 6,000. It's not a separate transaction.
No, 6,000 is in the 68.
Okay, are we good with that? Okay, thank you. Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, your worship, through you. I was going to ask this question later, but since my colleague has raised it on the dam, I'm curious about a couple of things. So you're saying the initial assessment was done almost 60 years ago of the dam. Then it was reviewed about 35 years ago in terms of
in the mid-90s. Yeah.
All right. So when is it going to be reviewed again?
Then it was reviewed in 2000. We went to the third-party consultant in 2005, and that's the current numbers that you have now.
So 20 years ago it was reviewed.
In 2005. Yeah. You're right.
Right. So I'm curious where the downstream benefit of the dam is for other communities because of climate change and other changes in water course. You probably know more about this than myself, sir.
And I'm sorry, I probably don't at this stage. You know, again, when they factored in the back in 2005, I mean, you're right. You know, there could be a different factor now with the climate change. You know, it may be the time that we have to, you know, if we want, we could revisit it. But again, I want to make a comment that have the study done in 2005, the amount that it resulted was $150.
Councillor Irwin, to follow up.
Yeah, thank you, your worship. I'm being educated by my colleagues who've been on council much longer than myself. And they've informed me about some other, you know, what seems to be asymmetrical funding arrangements. For example, shoreline protection when we have no shoreline, but we're paying a significant share for that. So how does that factor into this? If there's a quid pro quo or an equity issue involved?
Again, I mean, the shoreline protection numbers, you know, that comes through our planning and regs. And while yes, there's significant development along the shoreline, there's also significant development in planning and subdivisions and throughout our watershed. So, and that's, you know, factored in, you know, it's also factored in with the assessment values and the apportionment. So when you look at the dollar numbers that you're paying, and again, I'm not the mathematician or scientist to tell you what portion you should actually be paying. That's why we get it from the province as far as the percentage, and they valued on the assessment value. And that's how we determine that. So I mean, I guess to answer your question, they're not paying. The other member municipalities aren't paying specifically for the planning and regs fees for North Middlesex. We look at the total watershed together for those.
Okay. Councilor Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. And I think that leads into the question I've asked you before, board meetings, is that in the shoreline protection, it's one watershed, right? And that's what I was told. It's one watershed, and all members probably contribute to that protection because it's one watershed. But the dam in the Salmon River, even though it runs through a number of different municipalities, it's not one watershed. And I guess that's where I struggle to distinguish why. How is that identified as being different? Why is that not one watershed the same way?
Yeah. And I'm here to say that they do still contribute. Do they contribute the same? No. We've done it. And again, to have the study and where the values come and what the benefit North Middlesex, what the benefit Lambton Shores, what the benefit South Huron has on the dam. Again, I'm not the scientist to tell you. We had the study to say that that's the portion that should be. Yeah, and we've always just had it for just those structures, like the erosion control structures and flood control structures.
Okay. Any other questions? One comment I'll make is we always ask about the special benefiting levy and where's it go? This is showing us where it goes. I do appreciate that. So carry on, Brian.
Said the next two pages are the consolidated as well as with the consolidated without the source water. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I will say that a couple things that might pop out at you because they popped out at me. When you look at the estimates, even the estimated actuals that I have, you'll see donations, why it's up. We've got $185,000 donation. We only get 1,000. We actually had a piece of property that was donated to us through the year, and we have to value whatever that piece of property was valued at. That's what we give the donation receipt for. So that's in there, about $170,000. You also see that a similar amount, because it's a piece of property, on our capital purchases, why it's increased so much. You see the 260,000, so that's kind of a here and there. The other thing, and kind of along the lines of Councillor Daigle, you'll notice two reserves. It's increased $100,000 at the very bottom in the expenses compared to what we originally budgeted, 35,000. We're not trying to stockpile anything. What happened is during the year we were successful to get $100,000 for an accessibility grant. And we have until March 25 to spend it. We haven't spent it yet. So, I mean, that's up in our partnership contribution number. So we've got the revenue in there, and what we're doing is saying, okay, we're putting it in reserves because we know we have to spend it by March of 2025. So those are a couple of the items that, you may or may not have questions on, but I thought I'd better let you or address them. The next page after that, you can see up the graphs, as I alluded to earlier. The operating levy amounts are about 25-27%, and that's where we leverage the additional funding. I've talked about the next page with the apportionment. Those are the numbers that we have for North Middlesex. As you can see, as I mentioned before, the 2.7 is the overall proposed increase, and for North Middlesex, it works out to 1.96 based on the values. The next few pages, this is new from what we usually bring at the budget time. But you'll remember that Mary Valise and I came back in, it was in the summertime, we talked about our Category 3 programs and our service agreements. And at that time, I said that this form here, the Schedule A would be something we'd be included in our budget annually. So this is what it's here now. I will say that it shows the overall amount for North Middlesex apportionment of 19,000 for the 4 different programs. I will say that, and it says the total cost of 163. that's significantly less than what we had in our 5-year forecast, and it's less than what we had in our last year's budget of 2023. As you can see in the, if you go back to the consolidated page, it's about $20,000 less than what it was in 2023. So those are all the comments I was going to make. For you, if you have other questions.
All right, just before I turn it to council for a second, I do have a question on the graphs I'm seeing on education, 3% that we spend on education. Has that's lowered, hasn't it? Like you're not.
It's less, probably for this year. It's significant change. We staffing changes. We actually have one full-time staff member now, as opposed to, we'll say 1.5 maybe prior. We kind of, thought, did a little strategic plan or whatever we'd say, you want to say, like through our day camps. We actually we're going to look at contracting that out to help them, because it's busier times. Like, so yeah, it's probably before it was probably 5 or 6% of our budget, but it is a little less now.
Thank you. That's what I thought. Just looking at it. Other questions from council, overall questions? Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Brian, I was just, while you were going through your presentation, and at the start, you had mentioned that some projects have been deferred, possibly just shelved. Does that have anything to do with the reduced funding from the provincial government?
Good question. It's not necessarily, but I will say that some of the projects that we've had on with our 5-year forecast, we've put them on there in hopes that, in case there is other funding available, with like one being there's with the stormwater management part, like we were hoping that there'd be other funding available for some of that, but there isn't. And I will say that part of that also is, we have again, connected to funding, we need to upgrade some of our flood forecasting software, and we're hoping to get some grant money from the province, but we don't know for sure whether we are going to do it. So it is a little tied to that, but it's not necessarily because of their cuts. Okay, if that answers
Okay.
the best I can. Yeah.
Okay. Other questions? Go ahead.
Wouldn't be likely not to have one. Thank you, Mayor, up to Mr. Horner. Question number one, through anything, I see where 2 senior staff positions are coming through at Oxabo Bayfield. Can you explain or what's going on with them? Or I do believe they're closing before Christmas.
Good question.
Or maybe they closed already.
Good question. One of the senior positions is myself. I plan on stepping back, and I don't plan on leaving the organization unless I'm asked to. I'm going to step back for some. Prior to coming into the GM role, I was the financial supervisor, and it's worked out that kind of as a succession plan. It's worked for other members that we've had. I plan on going back to that role at a lesser number of days, and to kind of help in the finance department, as well as a new GM coming in. It works budget wise. It's a no additional cost for us. So that's my position, why I'm stepping back. The other senior position, and I will say it was a member of our planning department, who was working part-time with the Huron County, has decided to take a full-time position with the Huron County in the planning department. And to fill that role, when you say senior, the individual wasn't necessarily in a senior role, but to move forward, the hope is to get somebody in a more senior position to take that, to help fill that void. So if that answers.
Appreciate that, Brian. I know it's always have to be careful talking about HR issues, but
yep. I probably said it more than I was supposed to.
I did have one other question, a general question on it. If someone's proposing to donate land, bush area or whatever, to LaSalle Bayfield, are you obligated to take that land? There's no obligations that way.
Any
Okay.
transactions like that, I mean, because there might be some properties that one may not be a good fit for us,
Mhm.
right? And we go to our board and have the discussions to do
Okay.
that. But no, we're not obligated that we
That's
have
what
to.
I was just wondering about that because that had been approached about that. I wasn't sure.
And if I may, on that note, we have property donated to the authority, and we have our sister, we have the foundation as well as the land trust here in county, here in land tract conservancy, which is also a part of the foundation where we have individuals or
Okay.
corporations donating
All right.
property.
All right, thank you. Other questions from council? I guess that's it. Thank you very much, Brian, for coming. Appreciate it as always, and best wishes in your new role or your new old role. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on. We have the auditor's financial statements. And it's Scott Trevor's coming and Graham Scott, I think is Graham. And Graham Scott and Ennis is coming from Chartered Accountants coming. Sorry. Jeez. And I don't know if we have Estelle, if she's just listening in or if she's going to join us. Oh, there you are. Hi, Estelle. Okay, Estelle, I'll let you open this.
Okay, so Scott Travers is a senior manager with Graham Scott Enns, and that is the chartered accountant company, if you want. So Scott has been very patient with the North Middlesex municipality in regards to the 2022 year-end financial statements. So Scott has joined us, and welcome, Scott, and the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you, Estelle. Quick question. Will you be sharing your screen, or is that how that's going to work? Or
I can share my screen, or Natalie, if you want to call up the financial
gonna do that?
statement
Yeah.
and share the screen.
just scroll through them as I talk. I'll tell you where you need to be. Just while we're waiting for that, the firm is actually Graham Scott Enns LLP. So that means
Thank
limited
you.
liability partnership. And Graham Scott Enns, neither of those three gentlemen are around anymore. They were the original members. So they've long since retired. So yeah. So let's just go over here like this. Okay, so again, I'm Scott Travers. I'm a senior manager. We've been auditing North Middlesex for the past 3 years, I believe. So not new to me. I think I did the presentation last year as well. So I'll just believe that council, this was included in your package, which is our audited financial statements. I believe there's an audited findings letter in there as well. And these statements are for December 31st, 2022. So it should be noted that these financial statements and the related disclosures are the responsibility of management and have been reviewed and discussed with management. So I'm going to keep scrolling down there. And we'll go to what's called the manager's responsibility for the financial reporting. So this is a statement that the management makes. So Carolyn and Estelle, that they are responsible for these financial statements and kind of what they're attesting to. So we'll ask them to sign that. Keep scrolling down, if you could please. So this here is our independent auditor's report. So this goes on 2 pages. So I'll go over it briefly with you and kind of outline what's on here. The auditor's report, like this is standard wording that's across for Canadian auditing standards. So any size of entity with audited statements in Canada would have a very similar report. It would just be the statements and the name probably would be a little bit different in the dates, but for the most part, the layout is exactly the same regardless of the size of the organization. Okay, the first section, which is called the opinion paragraph, that's where we state our audit findings on our audit of financial statements. So before I read the audit opinion, just a little quick audit training. For everyone, there's 2 types of audit opinions. One is a qualified opinion and one is called an unqualified opinion. A qualified means there's some sort of misstatement of financial records. And unqualified means that we found they were free from material misstatement. So this report here for North Middlesex is what we call the unqualified version, the unqualified audit report. Okay, so I'll read the opinion, which states, we have audited the consolidated financial statements of the municipality of North Middlesex, which comprise the consolidated statement of financial position as at December 31st, 2022, and the consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus, consolidated statement of changes in net financial assets, and the consolidated statements of cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the municipality's consolidated financial statements present fairly and all material respects the financial position of the municipality as at December 31st, 2022, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for public sector entities. Okay, so that's our audit opinion. And then scrolling down, oh, go back up to the next page, or back to the first page, please. The previous page, yep, there we go. So this kind of outlines how we formed our opinion, where it says basis of opinion. So we follow certain standards in the auditing world, the assurance world. So we follow these standards, for ethics and kind of how we're going to gather audit evidence. The next one is responsibilities of management and those charged with governance, which is council. So just states that management is responsible for the financial statements, and they provide in assessing kind of the notes and what numbers are on here. And it's not our job to provide those. That's up to the management and those charged with governance. We keep scrolling down to the next page. This gets into our auditor's responsibilities. Okay, so this outlines what we did, kind of high level, for audit, which is to say what we did. We identified risks, we obtained internal control understanding, we evaluate accounting policies and the reasonableness of them. We conclude on the going concern of the organization, and we evaluate the overall presentation and structure. And then we communicate anything that we find with those charged with governance, anything that we deem to have matters of significant issue. Okay, and then at the bottom it would be signed by us, Graham Scott Enns. Okay, so that's our unqualified auditor's report or audit opinion. Okay, I want to keep scrolling down to the next page, which should be the financial position. There we go. So this again is at December 31st, 2022. Not as of today, as of December 31st, 2022. So we have it broken out in PSAB with public sector accounting standards. We break it into financial assets, which is things that obviously can be liquid and can be turned into cash, financial liabilities, and non-financial assets or tangible capital assets. So I'll just highlight some of the brief differences, I guess, year over year. The financial assets, you can see the total of those, which is our cash and investments and receivables. They're around 17 million. The year before that as well, in the 17 to 18 million dollar mark. Our liabilities, you can see the 15,601,000. That's up from 7.5 million. So we've increased. We've had some temporary advances to finance some of our capital, some of the capital projects. Obviously, the payables, you can see they've increased from 4.4 from 1.9. So we have some costs associated with those capital projects in there, holdbacks and such, as the projects are ongoing. And then our long-term debt as well went from 800,000 to 2 million, which was I believe that was our funding related to the water project from the water board. Okay, you can see our net financial assets have declined with those two numbers from 10.2 to 1.5 million. Okay, and then our non-financial assets, which is our tangible capital assets, you can see they've jumped from 65 million to about 77.5 million. So that's where we've invested all of our financial assets. Essentially, we've turned those into tangible capital assets. Okay. Scrolling down to the next statement, should be the statement of operations. Okay, here's our essentially our revenues and expenditures for the whole 12-month period ending December 31st, 2022, with a budget comparative. So our revenues are broken down by source, and our expenses are broken down by segment. So what services we provide. Okay, so that brings us down to a net surplus of 2.9 million. Okay, now I keep scrolling down. That's a statement changes in net financial assets. Again, that highlights where we spent those financial assets on the acquisition of tangible capital assets of 13 million. Okay, so you can change that, see how they dropped 8.7 million in those financial assets. Scrolling down. Statement of cash flows just gives a little further information on where we spent our cash in the year. So it starts off with your surplus at the top. You add back non-cash items such as amortization. In your surplus, you do cash from operations of 8.2 million. And then we spent 13 of that on capital. And then you can see our financing as well. We received some bank advances to help with that for net change in cash of 822,000. So a decline in cash of 822,000. We'll keep scrolling down. Yeah, we get into a summary of notes. Okay, just scrolling down here a little bit on my side here. So these are our, where we outline our summary of significant accounting policies that management adopted in the year. So this is how we report our transactions, how we report our revenue, how we make estimates, what we've included in this statement. So we consolidate some of the water board information into these statements. Keep scrolling down. These are a few pages. No changes in these from the prior year. Yeah. So basis of accounting, how we do that, our use of estimates, that we have tax revenues as a source. Keep going down. There's been no new ones here added from the prior year, so we can just kind of keep scrolling through those. Just kind of outlines again how we report our transactions in these financial statements. Here's how we amortize our TCA. Keep scrolling down this stuff. Yep. Keep going down. Okay, and then we kind of after those notes, kind of provide some more information on I guess expanding on what's on the statement of financial position and the statement of operations, and kind of what we'd consider useful to the users of these financial statements. Oh, go back. I'll just kind of highlight these notes. So note number 2 explains that we do have a credit facility available, even though we haven't used it. 3 have short-term investments, so explains that they're recorded at cost plus accrued interest. We have some note 4 temporary advances, so we're in 4.4 million of that. And it was 1 million the year before. Note 5 outlines our taxes receivable, break them down between current and arrears, just providing the users with some additional information. Scrolling down. Note 6. So again, where do we how our receivables are from that are presented on our balance sheet? So water, sewer fees, government remittances. Then our sewer debenture receivables. Note 7. Scrolling down. Here's a tangible capital assets by cost. So what we do each year with those, obviously you can see the additions of 13.8 million in the middle column there. So we break them down by object, I guess, buildings, equipment, what's linear, underground networks, things like that, water, sewer, bridges. So we kind of tell our users what we've invested in, how we've amortized those. So scrolling down, please. Thank you. A lot of numbers there. Scrolling down, that's just last year's figures. We have to have comparative figures on statements. Note, there's our long-term debt note. So you can see the one we've added this year from the Lake Huron Primary Water Board. Okay, and it kind of outlines the interest rate on that. So we've added 1.5 this year. Kind of outline how we have to repay them over the next 5 years. Scrolling down, that's our long-term debt. Here's our accumulated surplus note. So that surplus of 79 million, where it's all, I guess, invested or sits. You can see 77 million of it, 77,525 is the value of our capital assets. And then there's a $9 million, we call that a capital fund, which is to say that 9.9 million of those capital assets have yet to be funded yet with any sort of debt or other sources of funding. So we'll take care of that in the year. The benefiting landowners, oops, go back one more. The benefiting landowners, 2.994, so that's drains and things like that we have to recover from land users. And then our reserve funds of 16.7 million, up from 15.4. If you had to look at a number here, the general operating fund will tell you that our general surplus in the year, I guess, was a deficit from 123,552 to 150,773. So about $27,000 in a operating deficit in the year. Okay. So then it breaks down what the reserves are invested in. Okay, keep going. Please and thank you. Note 11 and 12 are outlining our deferred revenues. So money we've received for a specific purpose. We haven't quite spent it yet. They're broken into general and obligatory reserves. So development charges and the old gas tax are what would have to be spent on specific purposes. There's a little more leeway with the general fund stuff, which the OCIF and the modernization grant. Going down. A little note about our landfill. Note 14 is the pension. They outline that we're part of OMERS. That we have trust funds that we're responsible for, but they're not in the statements. Note 15. We're almost there. Note 16 is our budget. So there's our balanced budget at the start, and we kind of do some adjustments to get to our PSAB or public sector accounting standards. For example, some things you might consider would be revenue or transfers to from reserves. Those are big in the budget world, but when it comes to revenue and expenses, they're not revenue and expenses of this year in the accounting world, accounting statements. So we do back those out and make adjustments for those to kind of make that budget comparable to what's presented on the statement of operations. Scrolling down there, I think that might be 17, 18. We just disclose what we collect on behalf of the county and the school. Or we have an accrued sick day liability, which, okay, and contingent liabilities are always exposed to litigation, so we always put that one in there. And just some extra explanation of what's on those statements in the cash flow statement and how we break down all of our expenses in the year. So we had 15.2 million in expenses. So on the statement of operations, we have them broke down by segment: general government, protection, that sort of thing. This information provides the users what we spent on wages, amortization, long-term debt interest. So that's by object. Going down there, we can get close to the end here. And then 21 outlines our segments. Going down as well, the different segments of services that we provide. And then I believe there should be a couple other schedules after that would kind of outline how we by segment where the expenditures and the revenues came from. Okay. So that is the audited financial statements. So again, we talked with Carolyn and Estelle the other day from 2022. So that's all I have there. I think in the package as well was an audit finding letter, which is our standard communication that we send to all of our clients. It's required under our standards just to communicate whether or not we found any deficiencies or anything like that, or then we need to report of significant interest. I don't think it's up there right now, but it was all included in your packages. And again, it just says, do we have any issues with management? Do we have any differences of opinion? Do we have any internal control issues? Do we have anything more significant estimates that we didn't agree with? That's kind of outlined in that letter if there's any differences or issues that we found. And just to conclude that there was none that we would like to bring to your attention. I believe it was a pretty clean, other than we're in December 2023 talking about this 2022. Other than that, it went pretty well and pretty smooth. So we were able to gather everything we need to issue an unqualified auditor's opinion. And that's all I have today. Have any questions?
Questions from council? Just before I go to council, I have a question for you, Scott, on the infrastructure, on the linear infrastructure. You know that it's, for example, the roadways were 25 million and 65,000. It ended off at 720,000 more, for example, at the end of the year. What were those factors? Is that on the capital projects that we're doing that's changing it, or what changes that?
Yeah, that's the cost of the assets that you add every year, right? So whether or not you budget for it, that's not incorporating this number. It's just what we spent. So this year, North Middlesex spent $715,000 on adding to their road infrastructure.
Okay. All right. So that's strictly. So I'm going to use an example. If we put in new infrastructure here in Main Street in Park Hill, how will that show on our bottom line?
Well, once it's put into use, it would be grouped in in with that linear roadway number to kind of add it as a cost to your tangible capital assets on your statement of financial position. So it wouldn't be an expense in your statement of operations. What you do with TCA or tangible capital assets is you kind of systematically amortize those over their useful life. So you'd say a road would last 50 years or 20 years. You would take that cost, and that cost every year would roll into the statement of operations on the financial statements every year. It's kind of like a systematic charge to the earnings every year of that cost. But the one-time cost is going to be set up as an asset and not as an expenditure in the statement of operations. like be carried on your financial position or your financial position at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you, because
Does
that
that
gives
help?
me that it does help, because it gives me, it's on a percentage and estimated life.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions from council? Councilor Irwin.
Thank you, your worship. Through you, this first question may be for members of the public who are watching this evening. On page 4 of the report, or page 6 of the PDF download, you list the liabilities current, which are almost exactly twice this year than they were last year. Can you just, I know there's notes attached to this, can you just give us a quick explanation why they are twice?
Just have to pull it up.
It's page 6 of the PDF or page 4 of the report.
Yep. So that number is a collection of things. You only see the total, but there's numerous amounts in there. And I guess if you had to highlight anything that was, they are related to capital projects, that is for sure.
Right.
Do you want names, or would you like?
Just to your worship, just some general feedback so that the public watching can understand that this is not, we're not out of control, so to speak.
Right.
Would you like me to speak to that, Scott?
Sure, if you would, Estelle. I got the numbers here, but go ahead.
Absolutely. So under the liabilities heading, which I believe is what Councillor Irwin is asking,
That's right.
the temporary advances, the 4.4 million, that is regarding our Infrastructure Ontario loan for the building of the water tower.
Okay. That
is yet to be finalized. Well, it is being finalized in 2023. The additional from the 800,000 to the 2 million on the very last line, the long-term debt.
Right.
That is the increase to that is in regards to the water pipeline loan with Lake Huron. Help me out here, Mr. Mayor. Lake Huron with Andrew Henney. Sorry, my brain is a little bit scrambled, but it's for that third water connection for the Lake Huron water supply. It's a loan that came about in, or that was negotiated back in 2007, but it was finally finalized in 2022. If you will remember that, it was for 1.6 million. And then the what other ones here are the accounts payable and accrued liabilities. So that is again the holdback for the major projects that have been happening in 2022, among other things, but that would be the major increase in that line item as well. Does that answer your question, Councillor Irwin?
Yes, thank you. With their worship's indulgement, I do have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Page 11 or PDF page 13. I'm scrolling through myself. In terms of our amortization rates, 2 questions. Are these the industry standards that we're using here?
The industry standards, everybody has their own. I believe they started off, a lot of people have started off using the same ones, but they've kind of modified it as they've gone on, because you only had to incorporate amortization in statements, I think, since 2009. So everybody kind of started with the same benchmarks, but people are modifying them as they go forward. And I believe you guys are slated to update these and when you release your next, when you incorporate your next accounting software, I believe it's going to change. But yes, those did start as industry standards, but as they learn more things and they kind of come up with different rates in different years as time goes on, better estimates, so to speak.
All right, follow up.
And I'm curious why we're using straight line depreciation, given the wear on some of these facilities occur at different rates.
I don't have an answer for that one. I just think it's yeah, you need to come up with a systematic way to amortize these assets over their useful life. So I think it's just easier to say it's going to last for 7 years or 10 years. We'll take your cost into systematically over the years. I don't really have a specific answer of why it wouldn't be anything else. Unless you put some engineered research into it.
If I may add, that is pretty standard across municipalities to use straight line amortization.
Okay,
I have one more question.
all right.
All right, last question, page 15, PDF page 17. If you could just explain for the, hope I got this right. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Work in progress. It's gone up significantly. Can we just have an explanation for the public who's watching why that has increased by 10 million?
If I can answer that, Scott, if you would like. That is, work in progress is our major capital projects that have not been terminated in 2022, of which, again, you have the water tower, you have Park Hill Main Street, and you have the fire hall. So those are three major capital projects that are still in WIP, if you would like. WIP is, yeah, of course, the acronym for work in progress. So that's why it has increased drastically.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No other questions? I guess not. So thank you very much. Yeah, I don't have that motion in front of me. We need to make the motion to accept this auditor. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Nerda. In favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Estelle. Next is department reports. And the first one is from Jaden, I believe, and that is on the wastewater treatment plant roof replacement. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. The purpose of this report is to present the tender results from the Elsa Craig roof replacement project. The Elsa Craig wastewater treatment plant roof has been assessed and it's found to be in poor condition and requires immediate attention. We do have a 2023 capital project, approved capital project with a budget of $150,000 to rehabilitate the roof. We had Garland Canada Inc. conduct a condition assessment, which is attached to the report, revealing multiple deficiencies in the roof and recommending replacement. We tendered the project, received 5 bids from qualified roofing contractors, and we recommend awarding the tender to Keller Roofing and Sheet Metal Inc., the lowest bidder, at tendered price of $151,843, excluding HST. The tender options included 3 options, and staff recommend proceeding with option number 2. And this involves a 3-ply SBS high-strength self-healing modified bitumen membrane roof with a gravel surface. And it's backed by a 25-year warranty from Garland Canada Inc. The cost came in just slightly higher than the approved 2023 budget, amounting to $154,515 when factoring in the non-rebatable portion of HST. In conclusion, we recommend that council awards the Elsa Craig wastewater pump house roof replacement tender to Keller Roofing and Sheet Metal Inc. at a total cost of $151,843, excluding HST. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaden. I guess I'll ask a first question. Is, do you know Keller Roofing? Are you familiar with the company? I don't know them. I'm just wondering, we're comfortable that they're capable of doing the job?
Yep. The tender only went out to qualified contractors, and Garland's familiar with them. They're local as well. I believe they're in Exeter.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's question. My other question, and then I'll turn it over to council, is option 3 is an add-on to it. It'd be $12,645. And what is staff's reasoning like that going with option 2?
So yeah, option 3 is an add-on that can be applied to option 1 or 2, and it adds that that self-healing coal tar flood coat. So it is an additional layer of protection. It does add 5 years of warranty, but option 2 does already include the self-healing within the properties of the roof material. So we feel like that's a good choice, and the 25-year warranty is good as well.
Okay, thank you. Council. Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Quick question to you, Mayor. Is this something work that can be done through the winter time, or is this not going to get done the next summer?
Through the mayor, it's going to get done in the spring. The tender required them to have it completed by the end of March. So we were looking at potentially doing it in December, but I think we're going to wait for better conditions. And we're looking at mid-February start date. It's 2 weeks of work.
Other questions from council? Councillor Daigle?
Just want a clarification on option 2 is for 20 years, 25 years. So we get an extra 5 years for $2,500 a year. I'm just not sure why we're not going and getting the extra 5 years.
Through the mayor, it's open to if council wants to go with one of the other options. We do have that choice. We did have a budget of $150,000, so we did want to stay within that budget. But certainly, that if council wants to go for the premium or add the 5-year warranty with that additional flood coat, that is an option. The option 3 can be applied to 1 or 2. So we were just trying to keep costs down where possible, but if council wants to go otherwise, we'd be open to that.
Appreciate that. Councillor Cornelison.
Just to follow up with Councilor Daigle's question, Jaden, will that option 3, will that additional protection add 5 more realistic 5 years, or is that just a thought that it might add 5 years?
I don't, through the mayor, I don't know all the details of that. I do know that that's what Garland has provided. It will add another 5 years. We would have a 30-year warranty on that roof for the life of that roof.
All right, Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor. Jaden, is this a prorated warranty, or is this a part and parcel whole warranty?
Through the mayor, it is a sorry, I'm just gonna pull up the document, or it's actually probably sitting on my desk. It's a no dollar limit warranty on all materials, labor as well. So I believe it's a complete warranty, but I probably have to follow up if you want the exact details for that.
I would like to see that, please. I guess what I for the purpose, the interest of everyone, much like residential roof shingles, they say they're good for 30 years. But when you do have a claim, well, it's prorated, and they're quite quick to tell you what you're not covered for. So I'd just like to know, in the commercial end of things, if in fact it is a prorated warranty, or if it is in part and parcel whole warranty.
I'm just gonna pull up the report on my computer here and see if I can find that information quickly for you. Okay.
That'll be fine. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Is there any other questions in the meantime? I have no problem with the recommendation. I think the question is whether, I think council's questioning whether to add that other coding or not, or whether there's. I have to say I'm pleased to see that our budget estimate was so close to what was pretty much right on to. So we'll just get an answer to that before we.
I'll take an answer tomorrow. It doesn't have to be tonight to hold the meeting up. Tomorrow's fine. Or
are you comfortable making a decision tonight without?
Oh, I can, yes, because we're not going to change this. That's
Okay.
a standard in the industry.
Okay, go ahead, Jaden. Maybe you have it.
I just pulled up the information from the document. So I'm seeing it's a no dollar limit, non-prorated warranty covering all system materials, labor, and workmanship, and will include no charge annual inspections and follow up by the manufacturer to ensure the roof continues to perform as expected.
Okay. All right, we have a recommendation in front of you. What's your? You're moving the recommendation? Counselor Daigle, you're moving the recommendation? Was there a seconder for that? Are you seconding that? Discussion on it? No discussion on it? In favor of that motion? Carried. All right, our next one is the report for the dredging project for the Park Hill sewage lagoons.
Okay, through you, your worship, to council. The purpose of this report is to bring forward a proposal to appoint a consulting engineer for the design and tendering of the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon dredging project. As previously discussed with council, we are planning to dredge the Park Hill Sewage Lagoon in 2024 as a capital project. To expedite the engineering design phase, we propose seeking pre-budget approval from council, allowing us to commence the work promptly instead of waiting for the 2024 capital budget approval in the new year. Staff reached out to neighboring municipalities and managers to get advice on lagoon dredging. We spoke with staff at Strathroy Caradoc, who had recently completed lagoon dredging projects, and they shared positive feedback on their engineering consultant, RV Anderson Associates Limited, for similar projects. So the municipality engaged RVA to provide a proposal for our planned 2024 lagoon dredging. They put together a proposal which includes the essential components, including preparing a cost estimate for our 2024 capital budget, a detailed work plan for the sludge removal, preparation of the tender packages, and evaluation of lagoon capacity before and after dredging operations. The total cost from RVA is $41,528.75, excluding HST. And it's recommended for pre-budget approval as part of the 2024 capital budget. And furthermore, we recommend entering into this contract with RVA as a single source supply, which requires council approval for amounts over $25,000 as per our procurement policy. Also attached to the report for council's reference is a copy of the detailed sludge survey report that was conducted by Hydra Survey in October 2023. This sludge survey report will be used to plan and design our lagoon dredging project with RVA. And as noted in the report, the lagoon currently has an estimated sludge volume of approximately 65,000 cubic meters, 45,000 cubic meters of which is removable, which equates to approximately 4,640 bone-dry tons of removable sludge. So in summary, we believe that pre-approving the 2024 capital budget and entering into a contract with RVA will allow us to get a head start on the engineering work for this important project. And further, given this direction we're taking towards the dredging lagoon, staff feel that we can remove deferred item number 14.5, Park Hill Sewage Lagoon third-party opportunities, as we're not currently no longer exploring third-party arrangements with Wessex Inc. at this time. Thank you.
Questions? Council. Councilor Canellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jaden, just being a simple old farm, emptying shit pits. Why do we need an engineer to tell us how to remove this stuff? Why can't you just get a farmer in there? Like, help me understand, what is an engineer actually going to do?
It is a major project. You know, I guess it's not as simple as throwing a hose in to take out the sludge or the biosolids. Typically when these operations are done, it's with like a dredging unit that's mounted on a boat. It's a specialized piece of equipment, and it is technical work. So we don't think it's going to be cheap either. So we want to make sure we got this thing properly planned and designed, and we're getting good value for our money with the project.
Thank you for helping me understand.
Other questions? Comments? No, Councilor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an associated question that deals with the project, but not particular to this report. We submitted for an Infrastructure Canada fund, and part of it was to pay for this initiative. Have we heard anything at all about that fund? Because I see large municipalities are getting money through that fund.
We haven't heard on that. But we've heard so many opinions. I just want to make comment. We've heard so many opinions of the status of our lagoons over the last couple of years, especially. Everyone's opinion. And then we got these, they came in and did, I guess, sonar, was it? That they came in and did the testing of the, it appears they're not as bad as what we were led to believe. That's how it appears, but I'm not an expert on that, but just going by the numbers that I see. So my own thought is that we do this, we move forward, we get a real answer to it. And so we know exactly what we're going into before we. Councillor Keogh, did you have your hand up?
I did, Mayor. Up. The opinions, is there any consistency from the different parties that have investigated into this? Or does it just seem to be specific to the type of work that they do? They have their own opinion because it is what they recommend to do. Understand what I mean?
Yeah, it's the mayor, just for clarification, the opinions with respect to the condition of lagoons or the amount of sludge or capacity, or trying to get clarification?
Are the conditions of the lagoon and the contents of the lagoon?
Through the mayor. So the updated sludge survey report that we recently got from Hydro Survey, it's a company that works across Canada, and they've probably done over 500 of these. So I think they've seen a lot of different lagoon facilities in a lot worse condition than ours, and ones that are, you know, causing more environmental damage than ours are. We generally put out, you know, good quality effluent when we put it out to the river and after we treat it with chemicals. So I guess when we had a meeting with them following this report, that was somewhat reassuring to hear their opinion on it from someone who, our company that specializes in these type of lagoons and facilities. And yeah, it reassured us a bit that, you know, the situation may not be as dire as we're all thinking. That being said, we still, the information that we got from the sludge survey report did reconfirm the amount of sludge that we had, that we previously thought we had. So we still have the same capacity limitations that we estimated previously with those evaluations that were done by Dillon Consulting and Ontario Clean Water. But it's good to get, I guess, a fresh set of eyes on those lagoons.
Councillor Daigle and then Councillor Nerda.
Just one question on this report we've got back. Does Aqua have any input on it?
Yep, through the mayor. Aqua is involved with this, and they will be moving forward. They're happy about it. I mean, they operate the lagoon, so they know it's something that may be overdue. So they're looking forward to moving forward with this and supporting us with it.
Okay, Councillor Nerda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jaden, can you help me understand what did we learn from the Hydra survey that we paid $10,000 for, and then again now we're going to be paying another company $41,000? Are we just throwing money? It seems that we're just spending money after money. So if you could help me out.
Sure, through the mayor. The hydro survey report. It's a comprehensive sludge survey report with detailed maps of where the sludge is, as well as the quantity of sludge. So it's an important piece of information that we need for the next step in the process for cleaning out the lagoons. So we know where the sludge is and how to target it to get it cleaned out. So I wouldn't be as comfortable moving forward with the dredging project without this information, because then we don't really know exactly you know, what we're up against as far as the quantity of sludge and the composition of the sludge. So it is important information for the next steps.
Thank you, Jaden.
Okay, other questions? No other questions? Do you have a recommendation in front of you? What's your wish? Councillor Knellson, you're moving? Seconder, Councillor Keogh, in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next one is Public Works, and that's for the Votex Jumbo Frontline 190s. Cleo Moore. Vance. I should have just said the more.
Thank you very kindly, Your Worship, for that intro. So Your Worship, members of council, I have a report here before you to essentially declare one of our old roadside cutters surplus, and recommend that we purchase this Votex roadside cutter. It's a flail attachment that would essentially be mounted on the new John Deere 6130 that we purchased this year. And essentially the attachment, as opposed to sort of traditional roadside cutters that kind of fit on the rear 3-point hitch of a ag tractor, this one fits on the front of the machine. It improves the operator's cab ergonomics because they're basically looking at that attachment through the front right of their cab. And further to that, I bring this here before you because it's a request to utilize capital money that we do have left over from the purchase of the tractor. And of course, it would be a single source supply because I'm not aware of anybody else that makes this machine or this attachment. I have done some homework with respect to this attachment because it is a flail unit as opposed to a disc mower that we're traditionally using. And other municipalities have life cycled this attachment, so they've had great success with it. So that's good. And also, the reason that I'm before you to request to use the capital money is also because the purchase is over $5,000. It's part of our tangible capital asset policy.
Questions for Vance? Councillor Canellis.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Vance, what are we going to do with the flail mower that's currently being declared surplus? What are we going to do with it?
Your Worship, the Lily is essentially it is a disc mower that was purchased by the municipality a few years back. I would to succinctly answer your question, Councillor, I would put it on Gov Deals, which is essentially where I put all of our surplus equipment for the public to bid on. So that's how I would, and for everybody's information, any surplus equipment, vehicles, etc., for council's edification, that's basically where I've been surplusing that equipment.
When we ship stuff to Gov Deals, we're basically giving it away. We don't really get a lot of revenue from that. It doesn't create, it's not a revenue generating organization, is it?
Through Your Worship, well, it is an auction. So sometimes it is surprising what people will pay for some of our surplus items. Also, if we feel that there needs to be a reserve bid because the piece of equipment we're aware that it has a specific value, or we're aware of that value, then we can arrange all of that through Gov Deals. I can appreciate that. Perhaps, of course, council is intentions is to get the most value for our surplus equipment as much as possible. And the Gov Deals website allows us to surplus that equipment in an equitable fashion so that everybody can get a chance to bid on it.
One final question. You indicate in your report that you've not used the Lately flail mower for the last 5 years. What have we been using in the past 5 years? Because the grass has been getting cut.
Yes, through Your Worship, what we have been using is we do have a case disc mower. So, and we have that one, it's connected to our older John Deere 6200. And 6200, I believe, is about a 2000 or 2002 machine. So it's a little bit older. However, it still works. And we've been using that machine for roadside cutting, as well as our program is augmented by using the sort of the brush cutter on a broom, because it also has a flail attachment and it can cut grass as well. So we've been using those pieces of equipment right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Daigle, second by Councillor Keel. Is that right? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Vance. I think the next one is yours as well.
Certainly, Your Worship. The second report that I have here before you is essentially a request to for council to pre-approve 2024 capital dollars for the purchase of a light duty snowplow and salt spreader. And essentially here, what I'd like to do, Your Worship, is provide a little bit of background with respect to this purchase. Essentially through our OSIM inspections, which is our bridge inspections that we spoke about in a previous meeting, we essentially have 3 bridges with a 10 metric ton or 10-ton load limit on those bridges. And with that, operators and drivers are not permitted to drive across those bridges for any reason with equipment that's heavier than 10 metric tons. So with that being said, we've got 3 bridges. One is on Adair, one is the Bridge 34, which is located on New Ontario that we most recently repaired. And the other one is, I believe, Bridge 35, which is on Springbank. And so instead of trying to send our tractors all the way out to clear those bridges off, I'm recommending the purchase of a slide-in sander and to attach a plow to one of our 3/4 ton pickup trucks, which is a Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. And that would enable us to deploy a piece of equipment to do winter maintenance on those bridges this winter.
Questions? Council? Councilor Keogh, then Councilor Nerda.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Vince, it has more than just that purpose too. Is that correct? Like, when we put a blade on that truck in Sander, it's multi-purpose. It's not just bridge.
Absolutely, through your worship. Absolutely. It can be used for many different uses in our operation.
Councilor Nerda. Was that the same question? Councilor Daigle, I think you had your hand up.
These 3 bridges, did they just become this weight level limit, or how did we do the bridges in the past?
Through your worship, the bridges I'm aware of have been 10 metric tons for some time, but recognizing that this is a reaction to that, I guess, and that to sort of right the ship and ensure that we're maintaining our infrastructure correctly, this is what I'm recommending.
Okay. Councilor Pinelson.
Thank you, Mayor Rob.
And then Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Vance, just to expand on Councilor Keogh's question about other areas where this piece of equipment could be utilized, it seems to me that we can use this piece of equipment to do our parking lots. Does that make sense?
Through your worship, it certainly can be used for parking lots. If I may, to further expand on my answer, just from previous winter and so forth, with our patroller who is scheduled to work on the weekends and so forth, it will come in pretty handy for just if there's trouble areas that are smaller in nature, perhaps like parking lots and so forth, or of that nature, we can deploy that vehicle. And I've got basically a patroller on staff during the weekends and early mornings, and that can be added to our winter operations everywhere if need be.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Pinelson, are you considering like doing all of our parking lots all the time? Is that what you're getting at?
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
However, what I am saying is that there could be some collaboration between the rec department and public works to mitigate some of the costs we currently are encountering with parking lot maintenance.
Okay, thank you. Just want to clarify. Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question, Vance, maybe just quick fusion here. Yeah, I know the 3 bridges you're talking about here. Are the plows not going to cross those bridges at all? They're going to turn around from both directions on each side of them, right?
That's an excellent question. Your worship, excellent question, Deputy Mayor. Essentially, what we've undertaken so far is to succinctly answer your question. That is correct. Our snowplow trucks and graders will not be crossing those bridges to do winter maintenance. We have undertaken to build turnarounds and so forth on either side of those bridges.
in consultation with landowners, et cetera, to make sure that we're not we're turning pieces of equipment around on a very, very narrow road right away. That we've made the appropriate consultation to make sure that we're working with farmers and so forth. Also, to further my answer to your question, we have also had a close look at that. We will split routes and so forth with respect to our plow routes. For example, we'll have that one that comes up to mind is say the Bridge 34 at New Ontario. The north end will be done with a grader. South end will be done with a plow truck. And so we'll make every effort to optimize our existing routes with our operators and so forth, so that we keep that in mind and deploy that unit accordingly, so that we get it all done at once.
Councillor Daigle.
Just a clarification on Councillor Canal's point about the parking lots. I think we just tendered that out to be done by another company.
We absolutely did for this year, for this winter. Any other questions, comments on this? If not, we have a recommendation, and that's to purchase the, what's your wish? Moved by Councillor Canellison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. Question on it before we vote? Okay.
Vance, if we don't approve this, then how are we going to do winter maintenance on those bridges?
Through your worship, that's also a great question. What we would have to do is, we would either, a couple options come to mind. We would try to deploy our ag tractors once they're done in town. What is a little bit challenging about that is those machines only move so fast, and the distance between the towns and those bridges would take some time, and it would make it a little bit awkward for coordinating that work as opposed to the pickup moving a little quicker. Other than that, we would have to look at potentially contracting that out as well, as a resource, like that would be perhaps my second option. Other than that, and I'm really stretching it here, but we would be looking at perhaps using our sidewalk machines. I suppose we could use those, but again, they only travel it's like so fast. So that's why, if there was another way that I could do it, Yorkshire as a council, I would have done that. But this is why I'm here before you.
Okay. Any other questions on it? We have a mover follow up. Go ahead.
Vance, we only got one quote, correct? Is this the only company that does this, or is it possible that there's another company that could provide for a lower cost?
Your worship, the reason that I went with this vendor is because it is I'm essentially installing a plow that we already own. And so what I did was the municipality purchased an Arctic plow some years ago. So what I did is I reached out to the manufacturer of that plow, because like we already have a plow kind of in inventory that I discovered that we have like this year. And so essentially I just reached out to that company to retrofit that plow onto the pickup truck that we already have. Also though, if I may add, I did my homework with respect to phoning other companies to get quotes for like the slide and sander and so forth, and the quotes were some of them. Let's just say that the one that I have here before you is well within range of a normal purchase for that particular item.
Thank you, Vance.
Okay. Any other questions on it? Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Vance, number one, there's just the three bridges. Will the bridges be done by one of the employees after they do the routes? Like, I mean, it just seems like, okay, there's only a truck sitting there, unless we have another employee sitting there, that's your job or part-time. Who will do this and when will they be done?
Your worship, again, excellent question. Essentially, I would be utilizing our patroller, because essentially our patroller is scheduled, he's into work at 3 o'clock in the morning from Wednesday to Sunday. And on Monday and Tuesday, I have regular staff that take that duty over. But essentially, I would be utilizing the patroller to come in and do that work, so that we sort of have that additional guy that the truck wouldn't necessarily be sitting there waiting. Like we would try to optimize as much as possible.
Yeah, that's thinking, because I know you have a guy who goes out, checks roads all over.
Absolutely.
And everything else, and if that was something, he drove that truck. Don't think.
Yeah.
Any other questions on it? We do have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more department report, and that is arena structural assessment. Brandon, go ahead.
Mayor Ropp, members of council, the report in front of you is with respect to our structural assessments. My apologies on the actual conditional assessment report itself. I don't think it got attached to the agenda when I reviewed it. That's my apologies there. I have emailed it to everyone, so everyone should have it in their inbox. Just a general overview. We had Dillon Consulting come out. They went through the arena. It's per normal operating standards for an arena after it turns 50 years old. Every 5 years we go through it and make sure that we're structurally sound. The results were actually really good. Everything was fair. There are a few poor spots in our stands. The recommendation for those spots is basically sandblast away any corrosion. Any spots that have heavily corroded, we will end up having to weld pieces over and then painting everything to prevent corrosion in the future. I did ask Earl Ross Inc. to scope out this work. The budgetary number that came back, which will be part of the 2024 budget, was approximately $20,000 to have this work completed. Again, my apologies on not having the report in front of you, but it is in your inbox. If anyone has any questions about what was found, I'm more than happy to answer.
Questions for Brandon? No questions for Brandon. Actually, Brandon, I'm pleased with the assessment of it. I was a little bit afraid we'd see more, so.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very happy with it as well. Some sandblasting and some paint. See where they assess it in 5 years from now, but I assume we've got a fair bit of life left. So.
Okay, perfect. Other questions? If not, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councilor Nerda, seconded by Councilor Keo. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Brandon. Brandon, I can wait till later on this. Never mind. We'll leave it till later. Passing of accounts. Estelle.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report in front of you outlines the municipality's expenses for the period of November 10th through to the 30th, totaling $727,938.70. Before opening the floor to council, I did receive a few questions that I will share with you at this time. So the first question is regarding the payment to tenant security. Is that for, what period is that for? And when might we expect another report from tenant? So this invoice is for the period of June 1st to August 23rd. So it totals 184.75 hours. And the next report from tenant is forecasted to be in March. So the second question is regarding the payment to Valley. So are we done paying Valley for the fire hall was the question. The answer is there will still be a few more payments. For example, there's asphalt inspection that will be happening in the spring. There's still a little bit of work left, but the amounts that are going to be paid should be minimal moving forward. And the final question is regarding the multiple payments that have a Santa Claus parade description. What are these for? Obviously, it's for some of the floats in the Santa Claus parade and the entertainment. But just for members of council who are not aware, the municipality is not involved in organizing the Santa Claus parade in any way. We basically act as a bank account for the organizing committee. The revenues are deposited in our account. We make the checks to pay for the expenses. And there is a reserve for the Santa Claus parade. Any surplus will be deposited into reserve, and any deficit will be taken from the reserve. So there is really zero cost to the municipality. Having said that, I now open the floor to any questions that you may have.
Other questions from council? Councillor Irwin, then Councillor Canellison.
Thank you, Your Worship. This may not be a question for tonight, but certainly for the next council meeting if we can. We were promised a total cost of the fire hall, and I'm wondering when we'll see that total cost.
Through Mayor Ropp to Councillor Irwin, that report's done. It just missed the deadline on that, but it's done and ready to go, so it will be at the next.
For the next meeting, did you say? Perfect, thank you. Councillor Canellison.
Thank you. My question is a similar one, only this one's for Jaden, and that has to do with SEMA. I see that we've made another payment to SEMA for the water tower. Are we done with them pretty soon as well?
Thank you for the question through the mayor. So that we're not quite there just yet with the water tower. We do have some additional inspection and then end of warranty inspection that has to be done for that one. So it's a 2-year warranty. So we will see some invoices in the future. That invoice was a larger one because I did reach out to SEMA about this to get more information, and most of the cost for this invoice was for construction activities in 2022, and it was just a very late invoice coming in from SEMA. But I mean, similar to the fire hall, I'd be happy to bring a report to council if you like on the status of the water tower and where we expect to see that land, and with SEMA as well.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Keogh.
Thank you, Mayor Ropp. Jaden, just to add to that, SEMA, back a couple of meetings ago, there was mention that there was some deficiencies. Are there invoices for these deficiencies, or are they on the house warranty work?
Sorry, I missed one.
So back 2 or 3 meetings ago, it was mentioned that there was some deficiencies with the landscaping, grading, and whatnot, with the lighting, with the water tower. Are we expected to be invoiced for those deficiencies, or are they being fixed up at no charge?
We have funds held back, so we have typically it's a 2% holdback that we have, but for specific deficiencies, we do hold back those funds. So there will be a payment, but it's money. It's not like we're paying for it to get done again. It's money that we have held back and wouldn't pay until the deficiencies are addressed.
So if I can to that, I have to say I'm not happy with that at all. And I don't mean with staff on this. I'm not happy that this went into existence, I believe in October, was it not last year? I think it was October, wasn't it? When the tower became active, and we still have a list of deficiencies. And talking with Rod from Aqua, he said it's a very slow process. And the one that he brought up, there's a valve that he's not happy with. I don't think that's a small deficiency to me. The grass is one thing, the valves and things are different. And I just have to voice my displeasure with SEMA and not addressing these and taking so long, because we're over a year and these haven't been addressed. And so, and I'm not upset with staff. That's not the point here at all. I did mention it to you earlier, Jaden, and they asked most of the questions that I have, but I do want to say I'm not happy that these deficiencies are dragging on, and yet the bills come in. So I'm hoping to see some actually movement on these deficiencies, if we get those cleaned up, especially when you hear about valves and stuff. Okay, go ahead, Jaden.
Yeah, just one quick thing on that. We do have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with the contractor and with SEMA. And yeah, certainly us as staff and staff at Aqua, we're not happy about how things have gone either. So we'll have more information though, and like I said, I'd be happy to bring back a report to council and maybe see if SEMA is able to attend as well and answer some of these questions.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions on the accounts? No other questions. We need a motion to accept the report. Counselor Daigle? Counselor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Estelle. Hope you're feeling better.
Me too.
Committee reports. Any committees that want to respond on this? I won't go through them. Counselor Keough.
It's tomorrow. There's a meeting.
Okay.
Be on Zoom for that one. And while I'm on the microphone, the Blue Water recycling, I have received the minutes from the previous meeting from the board of directors. However, it was too late to make the agenda. So I have circulated it to council, but I have also forwarded it to the clerk to put on for the next, for the public's information for the next meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other committees? Counselor Daigle and then Counselor Nerda.
Just wanted to report on the Recreation Committee. We were supposed to have a meeting last week, but it was, or maybe the week before, but it was canceled. Lack of interest, I guess. No, it just wasn't enough for an agenda, so it's being held up.
Okay. Counselor Nerda.
Economic Development meets next Thursday, the 14th.
Okay. Okay. Counselor Knellison.
Yes, Mayor Rupp. I want to congratulate Deputy Mayor Hodgins for taking over my role on the Fire Committee. As it's indicated here, item 11.8.
So just so everybody understands that that's not true. There was a mistake here on the report, but that's not. I have talked to the chief and he's hoping that we have a fire committee meeting before the end of the year. He'll be contacting you behind it. So, anything else on the committees? If not, we'll move on to correspondence. Prince Edward County Guaranteed Livable Income. Move to support by Counselor Nerda, seconded by Counselor Daigle. In favor? Carried. Prince Edward County permit by rule. Receive and file. Municipality of Tweed funding grant program. Moved by Counselor Knellison, seconded by Counselor Daigle. In favor? Carried. Municipality of Wawa tax credit for firefighters. Receive. Move to support. Sir seconder. Counselor Keough. All in favor? Carried. Municipality of Shania. Unnecessary noise break, engine brakes. Receive and file. Oh, support.
Support that.
Moved by Counselor Keough, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. I'm sorry, I was ahead of you on that. All in favor? Carried. Ministry of Infrastructure, the 2023 AMO delegation. If everybody read that, she's basically saying that there's some more money available, but she does understand that we did get a grant for the Main Street. But there is another funding stream coming available. And a thank you card from the Legion branch. And they have already given the plaque thanking, and I want to thank staff for that, for their efforts, not just on the Remembrance Day banners, but all the banners and that stuff they do in the community, because it is noticed and appreciated. And I know that some of our neighbors do not do that for the community, but I think it's a very important thing and it's noticed. Other and urgent business. Manager of infrastructure on the stop signs.
All right, through you, your worship, council. Apologies, I think this was intended to be brought up last meeting, but they were not. So with respect to the removal of temporary stop signs in Park Hill, I'd like to inform council that the temporary stop signs that were installed on the Park Hill Main Street detour route on Station Street and West Park Drive were removed on Monday, November 13th. And we did have this information posted on social media the week before on November 10th. Following removal of those temporary stop signs, we did get some feedback from residents as well as council who suggested that the all-way stop control that was temporarily up at West Park and Elliott may still be warranted based on the traffic counts and some possible sightline issues. So as staff, we do intend on reviewing this intersection further, and as well as the selection of other key intersections within the municipality, other ones that may warrant all-way stop control for various technical reasons. And we'll intend on bringing a report back to council with these findings and next steps as part of the deferred matter item 14.4. And just on the parking overview, just wanted to provide an update on that. It's the Brex Construction was out there today. We have been keeping pressure on them to rectify some deficiencies with the parking signs. It's been a bit of a low priority for them, but it certainly caused some issues with us and the businesses on Main Street. That there is some incorrect signs and incorrect locations. So I believe it looks like the majority of those have been addressed, and they were working on finishing those up today. So we'll follow up with an inspection and make sure all those signs are correct, so we can properly administer the parking bylaw.
Any questions for Jaden on that? Perfect. Thank you, Jaden. The other item I have here is congratulate Councilor Nerda.
So I attended along with other members of council, the North Middlesex Historical Hall of Fame dinner on November 4th. It was a fantastic night out with the community, and I want to congratulate this year's inductees, Lori Mackey, Marisha Coots, Lorraine Thompson, Ron Whitmore, and Alice Fakina. The work and dedication of these selfless, generous, and hardworking individuals do not go unnoticed. Each of these community members bring pride and honor to North Middlesex. So thank you for all that you do and continue to do.
Thank you, Councilor Nerda. Any other business? Councilor Daigle and then Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
I'm sorry to be bringing back this item. It's the gas line issue on Highway 81 from Corbett down to Murray. I'm receiving more contact back from the people in that area that they're saying the numbers are larger in favor of it than what Union Gas is saying. And what I'm thinking, and I've talked to our manager of infrastructure, is if we could get permission for the two of us to meet with these people, possibly set up a meeting where we can get them to come hear those that are in favor, so we do have an accurate number of who's in favor. And if we think we've got a basis to go, then we call in Union Gas and have the case presented. We're not involved other than as a facility.
So we just need that list of names so that we can invite them.
Your approval that we do this kind of work because it is outside of the purview of council.
Okay. Council's thoughts. I think it's a good idea. Let's find out what people have to say. Because Union Gas didn't have, they were saying there was a lot of people weren't signing up or weren't interested. Okay. So if we can set that up, we'll find out who it is, see if we can set it up. Okay. Want it as a motion? Are you going to make that a motion then? And as a seconder, Councilor Irwin, in favor? Carried. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Claire. Any other, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, you had.
I have a couple of things, Mayor Rob. One, I just wanted to bring your attention tonight. Fellow by the name of Bruce Carr, who is works superintendent for the municipal or active township of Gilbert, passed away back in November 10th. And I know there were things past municipal people. How far back do we in remembering them and maybe sending a donation, something in their choice? And I was hoping Donna would have been here next. I just thought of that during the meeting. That was one thing. Second thing is number one, has to do, I wonder if we could get together, I don't know, a meeting. I don't know how you yourself, Mr. Mayor, how you'd want to handle it. I would like to bring back a little discussion on surplus farm dwellings. It's not that I want you. We have 4 new members of council here. These rules were put back in place 15, 20 years ago when it maybe started. I'm just guessing.
2010.
It's just to get, I'm seeing, we're talking, I'd like to get the consistencies as to the decisions that we make balance it. As to, there are major positives to a surplus dwelling. There are a few negatives. It's just that it's just get a balance out there to say what stays, what doesn't stay. And so, I mean, I know they're there, but it's just a discussion among the group of councillors. Can that be done? Should it be done?
I think Councillor Daigle, you wanted to comment?
I think it's an ideal time. We have a new planner coming on to represent us. Let's all get to know each other.
Okay. Yeah, it would be in an education session that we'd have to do it. I would assume we would do that before council on a, you know, let's say a half hour or whatever before council, regular council, just when we're getting together, if we could set that up. Anytime we can have an education session like that. But I do believe that was passed in 2010. When that came on, because I do remember that, when that happened. Councillor Canellison.
Just to add to that, Mayor Rob, in the county planning session that I participated in last year, is also address farm surplus severance as well. So we maybe want to borrow some of that information as well to complement it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, we'll see if we can get that set up. All right, any other business? Seeing none? Deferred items. I do believe the CAO at the next meeting will have a follow-up on the surplus lands. I know she has done that work on it. The Environment Committee, the Water and Sewer Warranty Program, the community overview of traffic control, and I think that, I don't know if we have to have it on deferred item anymore because they're working on that. I'd like to see us take that off the deferred item. That's all right with council. And the other one is the sewage lagoon third-party opportunities. That shouldn't be on the deferred items anymore because that's being addressed. The updated fire hall costs, we'll leave that there until we get the report next meeting. And the Ellis Creek drainage issues, we will be talking about that and going from there. That'll be in communications with county council. I don't really have anything other than.
Excuse me, Your Worship. Just on the environmental committee, I am working with the CAO to complete a report to bring to council.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Daigle.
It's not showing on the list of deferred items. It's something we talked about, the lights at the water tower. Has that issue been corrected?
There's been some back and forth on that with it not functioning properly. I think the lights were staying on more than intended. So it's a topic for discussion tomorrow, and it's part of that ongoing deficiency list.
The answer to that is no, they do not go out. Yeah. Okay, but hopefully, yeah, that's one of the, so the communications county council, I will say that tomorrow, start, budget meetings with county, and that is, tomorrow morning or tomorrow all day, Friday, Monday and Tuesday. So, got no ideas yet on it, but they are those processes starting. The reading of the bylaws.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight we have bylaws 99 and 100 of 2023 be read a first and second time, please.
Councillor Daigle, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Third and final. Councillor Keogh, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? We're good? We need to adjourn to close. I need a motion.